Welcome to Conversations with Carleon. Today we'll be interviewing Cestrakiah Lewis, a rising basketball star whose dreams fell short due to a drug addiction.
Crack cocaine was the worst thing ever happened to me in my life. In 81 or 2, I came from flying around the world, first class, jet set, Alaska, Hawaii, Europe, to an alley.
Today we're in the place where it all began, the projects of Bay City, Texas. Cestrakiah, could you tell me some about your childhood and how it was growing up in the projects?
Well, growing up in the projects was kind of rough at first because it was a tough environment. I mean, we seen guys get shot, stabbed, beat up, and all that. I had to do a lot of fighting as a young kid to make my way. But then it taught me how to be tough with myself, tough in sports, and tough on the streets pretty much. This is the apartment where we used to live in 104 back, 40, 50 years ago. And on the other side of this apartment, we have an open space where I first really pretty much started learning how to play basketball. We didn't have a basketball court for the neighborhood, so what we did was, see that pole right there? I would take a piece of plywood, put it on that pole, then I took a bicycle rim and nailed it up against the plywood, and we hooped it up right here. And that's when I first started hooping. And that's when I first started learning how to play ball and getting better at it.
Would you say this is where you realized that this might be your way out?
Yeah, I recognized I had a talent with the basketball, and that could be my way out, and way to college, education, and to see the world as well.
How much were you scoring on average with basketball when you got to high school?
In high school, I averaged about 20 points plus a game, per game. I made all districts several years in a row, made All-American, and then after I did all of that, I was the MVP of the conference and stuff like that. So, and then that's the way I ended up getting a scholarship to go to Lamar University. You know, he came down and visited, and I went and visited. Ended up at Lamar, and the reason why I went to Lamar was because they said we were going to Hawaii and Alaska, and I hadn't been no further than 5 miles out of town. So
it opened up opportunities for you
to
travel the world, play
exactly.
against different people.
Right.
Who were some of the people that you got to play against?
People like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Otis Birdsong, Reggie Theus, Mark Aguirre, you know, all sorts of great talents that went to the pros. It was an adventure. It was an adventure. I got to see the world. I got to learn some things, and I got to play some ball, which I love to play.
So you're in college, traveling the world, playing against great basketball players, and what happened?
Traveling the world and playing against all these great stars and meeting these famous people and so on and so forth. Drugs come along with that. Some of the people that are great and are stars are drug addicts as well, are using drugs, and they'll try to turn you on to it or present it to you and ask you, would you like some of this or some of that? And I got presented it and I tried it.
So what was it like living in the alley?
Oh, it was terrible. The worst thing that ever happened in my life. I mean, 90% of the time we didn't have anything to eat. We never had any water. We never had any light. When it was summertime, it was hot as hell. When it was wintertime, it was cold and freezing to death. I can recall one time I was in there and I had the pneumonia. And I was so sick that the dope addicts and the dope dealers went and got my mother. And she came in, and of course I was in a darkened house with no power or nothing. And she walked in with a candle in one hand, a blanket over her shoulder, and I think a bowl of hot soup or something. And came into this dark room where I was, and I remember Mom asking me, was I all right? And then she said, would you like to go home with me? And I had got so caught up into my addiction, and I was hating the place I was at. I was hating my surroundings, but yet and still, my addiction made me tell my mother, no, I wouldn't. I'd rather stay here in hell.
Have you ever been in a position where you felt like you overdosed or had to go to the hospital or anything like that?
I can remember that I had got to the stage to where I had started hallucinating. I guess I had been up 3, 4, 5 days. Started having the seizures, so they went and got my sister. And she came in, my younger sister, and she had to pretty much put my arm around her shoulders, and she pretty much had to drag me and put me in her car and take me to her house. And she said, I remember she telling me that I had continued to have the seizures, and she wanted to take me to the hospital, but I didn't want to go because I was on probation or parole or something, because I had been to state jail or something for whatever crime I had committed because of my addiction. And pretty much everything that I did that was wrong in my life was because of my addiction.
So, knowing that you're experiencing these hallucinations and things like that, what would make you still want to be
high?
Yeah, what is?
I'll go back to it.
Feeling?
What's so crazy about crack cocaine and the use of crack cocaine? They say because it's the insanity of the addiction. Seen a guy stand up in the chair, they all over me, get them off me, rats or whatever, and stuff like that, right? And then once he comes back down to his right state of mind, he want to hit some more, and rats get back on him again. Now, it doesn't make any sense, but it's the insanity of the addiction. And I think it's the high that you first originally get, that high. First you get the high, then you get the trip. See, the high and the trip, they got to go together. I've been around a lot of death and a lot of suffering throughout this addiction thing.
Have you ever seen anybody die from it?
Not actually seen them, but found them dead. I've seen people just waste away from it their whole life. There's a lot of bad things happen. Ran from the police and crawled under houses and hid under houses from the police before. It was a bad life. That led to me going to jail on a drug delivery case. Then I bonded out of jail. As soon as I bonded out, I caught another delivery. And that's probably around 1998. And when I caught that second delivery, I decided to not go to jail. So I took off on the run.
Where'd you go?
Chattanooga, Tennessee, Louisiana, Galveston, Houston, Chicago, Memphis, Tennessee, Tacoma, Washington, Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, Portland, Salina, Kansas. I was all over.
How'd you get around all these places?
Well, I had the old Malibu, which I drove from place to place, but we would go to churches and stuff like that, and they would give you vouchers for gasoline, or vouchers to stay in a hotel a night or two, or vouchers to go eat. I ran into a couple at where was I at? Tacoma, Washington, and they were millionaires. That's when I started working for them, because they were doing the security for the Seattle Mariners, Seahawks, Sonics, all the major concerts, Feed the Hunger concert. I walked Beyonce and them to the stage. I worked behind the stage, walked Beyonce and them to the stage. Used to do the TV gate at the Seahawks football game. And have to search all the Channel 26 or Channel 11 equipment and stuff like that. But I got 5 felony fugitive warrants, which nobody never knew about it because they took an liking to me, and I never really filled in an application or nothing. They just gave me a job.
So what did you tell them Did you just say I'm homeless or?
Now my name is Kyle. I'm from Texas, and I need a job.
Okay.
Pretty much like that, cutting it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they saw the good work, and they saw the courteousness and the friendliness, and I guess that was enough for them.
To understand.
Mm-hmm.
They saw the good heart that you have.
Mm-hmm. And they knew I would only talk about so much about me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't ask me.
Mm-hmm. There's no contact with any of your family members?
Not during that time.
No. For 5 years, you didn't speak to any of them?
No, I couldn't, because I thought that they would trace it. But I was moving so much at that time too that, you know, if I did tell you I was here at a certain place, I might be gone tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Just it depends on how I feel. If something moved funny or whatever, or seemed strange, I'm out of there.
How much time were you facing?
Well, anywhere from 35 to 100.
Wow. Just for drug charges?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you finally returned home, what bring you home after the 5 years?
I got caught.
Okay.
Because I ended up in Seattle, Washington, which I was on my way to Canada, go across the border, you know what I mean? But at that time, things were so bad that they wouldn't let nobody cross. So I had to stay over here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And one time I got a motel, and I knew better to use my ID up at those motels, because, you know, they come and check them and stuff like that. But there was this old school police officer that would come and check the motels, because he knew that a lot of people come up Seattle way headed to Canada on the run, mm-hmm. trying to get out the country. And he would go in the mornings and check the list, and that's the way I got caught.
Okay. And so when you get caught, did they ship you back to Texas?
Yeah,
and you went to jail?
I went to jail for a while in Seattle, then they shipped me all the way back to Texas.
And how much time did they give you when you got here?
They offered me 35 years, but they just gave me no time. I got probation.
Okay.
But I had 5 felony fugitive warrants, 2 deliveries, assault on an officer, fleeing and evading, and destruction to police property.
Wow.
Yeah. If I had to go through it all over again to learn what I learned, I would, you know. But it was I had to suffer a lot just to learn that.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any regrets about back in college when you smoked for the first time? Do you wish you never?
Yeah, I do though.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was for a reason too, evidently. Mm-hmm. And God didn't let me die in it, mm-hmm. and He ain't. So I know I'll be all right, because I know I've come a long way from my addiction. Because I was one of the worstest of the worst, mm-hmm. but He carried me a long way out.
Mm-hmm. And through it all. You've been able to help other people.
In the midst of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just like I'm helping right now sometimes.